So you're saying that it gets at an underlying truth, which is that women care about men's success, right? And men care about women's bodies, right? And I'd say that there's definitely some truth to that, in the sense that when we look at both behavioral and survey data, but especially survey data, we see these big sex differences where it's like women care a lot more about ambition, which is a proxy for resources, about education, which is a proxy for resources, about resources themselves, right? So that's success. And then we also see on the other side of that, men, when you ask them, they care significantly more than women about physical attractiveness, right? And youth, which is a relative youth. It depends. Younger
so you're
men
basically saying what I said in the tweet in a much more pleasant way.
I guess I'm slightly more pleasant, but those sex differences are based on survey data. And earlier in this conversation, we both came to agreement. It's like, hey, survey data, not quite enough. When you look at behavioral data, it's actually very surprising how much more women care about looks than they say, and how much less they care about money and status and resources in practice. I'm not saying that they don't care about it more than men. They absolutely do. But they care about it proportionately less. This is kind of a statistically hard thing to explain. So I'm 100% confident.
Where are you getting this data from? Is this from surveys?
No. It's actually I believe it's a 2015. I'll be able to send you the study afterwards.
But if you're getting this data, then I'm assuming that you're asking women what they're choosing men based on. And
yeah. So I'm getting to that.
They're stating that it's not based on finances.
No. So I'm getting to that. So
or
that
to
would
the
be
degree that we
data.
would expect that it would be.
That would be survey data. Data, right? And for the survey data, we do see these large sex differences.
Okay.
But let's look at the behavioral data, because earlier you mentioned it's like, hey, what people say and what they do, they're two different things. And when you look at the behavioral data, for example, like speed dating studies, these are great, very interesting. Basically, you get tons of people in a room, you have them do speed dating, and you see real life mate selection. It's like, who actually wants to see each other again?
Yeah, it's all based on looks
practice,
for the most part.
What do we see? Yeah, exactly. Is that looks come up at a way higher level for women than they said, right? And status and resources, they do make a difference, right? Like having a higher educational level, having a higher salary, these things.
But I think that we're in agreement, because at the end of the day, looks are most important for something like, dating app swiping. Like the vast majority of swipes are not based on his bio, how much he makes, what his job is.
But speed dating,
it's the first photo sort of thing. But it's just like, okay, so now we've made the connection. Maybe I'm at a time in my life, if I'm a gal where I want to settle down and have a family, so I need a guy that that has adequate genes at a bare minimum, But there are women that like. One of the things that I find interesting, so women will cuck men, right? So let's talk about that, right? So if a woman goes and sleeps with another guy,
can we quickly? I actually do want to. So I've run studies on infidelity, and I can talk about the infidelity studies in depth. That's something that's what I wrote my master's dissertation at Oxford on. So we can really get into that. But I do want to just drill down on this point. With men are success objects, women are beauty objects. Right? That sex difference. It's like there's some support for that in the stated preference data. There's less support for, and you said that, you prefer behavioral data over survey data. So I'm telling you what the behavioral data is. This is dating apps, right? This is speed dating studies. This is interpartner correlation. So actual relationships, what level they're at, that kind of thing. And what do we see? We see that men do put a higher priority on looks than women, right? And women do put a higher priority on things like education, status, etc. But men care more about education, status, etc. than they say. And women care more about looks
than they say.
Yeah.